Morgan has volunteered to pay my $2,800 rent and the new van payments since I quit my job today. My sister Courtney dropped that bomb between bites of salad, without even looking at me. She smiled at our grandmother and her deadbeat boyfriend, daring me to make a scene. Family supports family, right? Before I tell you what I found in the trash can that night that changed everything, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just excused myself from the table and walked calmly to the converted pantry. I was forced to call a bedroom. There was no air conditioning vent in there, and the heat was already starting to build, a physical weight pressing down on my chest. My name is Morgan, and I'm 26 years old. To my family, I'm the pushover, the quiet one, the ATM with a pulse. They think I work some low-level data entry job that barely pays the bills. They don't know I'm a senior systems analyst for a major tech firm, or that I've been funneling 70% of my six-figure salary into a hidden offshore account for 3 years. Tonight was supposed to be the night I told them I was moving out. Instead, I was staring at a future where I was indentured to my sister's narcissism for the rest of my life. I closed the pantry door and wedged a chair under the handle. It was a flimsy lock, but it was all I had. I pulled up the rug in the corner and pried loose the loose floorboard I discovered 6 months ago. Underneath was a small, fireproof lockbox, my escape fund. I spun the dial left, right, left, and popped the lid. Inside sat $3,500 in cash. It wasn't much compared to what I had in the bank, but it was untraceable. It was enough for a bus ticket, a cheap motel, and a new start. My hands were steady as I started packing. Just the essentials. My laptop, my hard drives, my birth certificate. I wasn't running away. I was executing an exit strategy. That's when I saw it. A small, white device sitting on the high shelf above the doorframe. A single red light blinked in the darkness. A Wi-Fi baby monitor. Courtney must have put it there. Maybe she was just storing it. Or maybe she was testing the signal for the nursery next door. I stared at it for a second, a prickle of unease running down my spine. But then I shook it off. Courtney was too lazy to set up surveillance, and Travis was too dumb to know how to use it. It was probably just clutter. I ignored the red eye watching me and zipped up my bag. I was leaving tonight, and nothing was going to stop me. I picked up the laptop bag, the strap digging into my shoulder, a tangible reminder of the weight I was about to shed. I was halfway to the door when I froze. It was too light. The bag. It was too light. I unzipped it, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Empty. My laptop, my external hard drives, my entire career gone. I stormed out of the pantry and into the living room. Courtney was on the sofa, painting her toenails a garish shade of pink, humming along to some reality show. "Where is it?" I demanded, my voice dangerously low. "Where is my laptop?" She didn't even look up. "Oh, that old thing? I sold it." She blew on her nails, the picture of nonchalance. Travis needed to clear up a little misunderstanding with some bad people. $25,000 worth of misunderstanding. Your computer barely covered a fraction of it, but every bit helps, right? I stared at her, my vision blurring at the edges. You sold my laptop? That had all my work on it. My portfolio, my code, my life. Courtney, don't be dramatic, Morgan, she snapped, finally looking at me with annoyance. It's for your own good. You won't need a computer if you're going to be helping me with the baby full-time. You'll be too busy changing diapers and running errands to play on the internet. Consider it a detox. It wasn't just greed. It wasn't just about paying off her boyfriend's gambling debts. It was a calculated strike. She knew exactly what that laptop represented. It was my independence, my connection to the outside world, my ability to earn money that she couldn't touch. By selling it, she wasn't just taking an asset. She was severing my lifeline. She was ensuring that I had no choice but to stay, to serve, to be the invisible engine that kept her chaotic life running. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. She didn't want my help. She wanted my submission. She would burn down her own source of income, my job, just to keep me under her thumb. It was the twisted math of a narcissist. Control was always more valuable than cash. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a sister, but a warden. And in that moment, the last ember of familial obligation in my chest flickered and died. My plan B was Seattle. I had a final interview scheduled for a senior cybersecurity role there, a lifeline I'd been nurturing for weeks. I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling slightly, and navigated to my email. I needed to confirm the interview time, to salvage something from the wreckage. I opened the sent folder, and my breath caught in my throat. There, at the top of the list, was an email sent at 3 in the morning. An email I didn't write. It was addressed to the hiring manager in Seattle. The subject line read, "Go to hell." The body of the email was a stream of profanity, insults, and incoherent ranting that made me sound unhinged. Courtney. She must have used my phone while I was asleep. She knew my passcode. I'd given it to her once for an emergency and never changed it. She had burned the bridge, salted the earth, and danced on the ashes. I stumbled out of the pantry, the phone slipping from my numb fingers. I needed to leave. Now. Job or no job. Money or no money. I went to the key hook by the door where I kept my car keys. Empty. "Looking for these?" Travis asked, leaning against the kitchen counter, spinning a set of keys on his finger. But they weren't my keys. "Oh, wait. You mean our car keys?" "Give me my keys, Travis," I said, my voice shaking with a rage I could barely contain. He laughed, a cruel, grating sound. "Too late, babe. Sold it yesterday. Scrapyard gave us $2,500 for it. Needed cash for the baby shower, right? You sold my car?" I whispered. "You can't sell my car. It's in my name." "Not anymore," Courtney chimed in from the couch, not even looking up from her phone. "We filed for a duplicate title a few weeks ago. Forged your signature. It was surprisingly easy. The guy at the scrapyard didn't ask questions. My car. My last means of escape. Gone for a party. Gone for balloons and cupcakes." I felt a cold calm settle over me, displacing the panic. This wasn't just theft. It was a felony. Multiple felonies. I reached into my pocket and quietly tapped the record button on my phone. "So, just to be clear," I said, my voice steady. "You forged my signature on a government document, got a duplicate title, and sold my car to a scrapyard for cash? Without my permission? Oh my God, stop being such a narc," Courtney snapped. "Yes. We sold the stupid car. It was old anyway. You're not going anywhere, so you don't need it. We needed the money more. Stop being selfish." "Got it," I said. "Just wanted to make sure." I stopped the recording. Arizona is a one-party consent state. She had just confessed to grand larceny and forgery on tape, and she had no idea she had just handed me the weapon that would destroy her. I walked back into the living room, sliding my phone into my pocket. The recording was safe. The evidence of the felony was secure. But sending her to jail wasn't enough. If she went to prison today, I'd still be left with the shattered credit score, the lease liability, and the mountain of debt she'd piled onto my name. I needed to transfer the weight. I needed her to voluntarily handcuff herself to the wreckage she'd created. I went to the kitchen and started boiling water. The domesticity of the act threw them off. Travis stopped spinning the keys. Courtney muted the TV. They were expecting a fight. Tears. Maybe a tantrum. They weren't expecting pasta. "I'm sorry," I said, keeping my back to them as I dropped fettuccine into the pot. "I overreacted. The heat is getting to me. And the stress. Glad you finally realized that." Courtney sniffed, though her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Stress about what? You don't even have a job anymore." "That's just it," I said, turning around and leaning against the counter. I put on the mask I'd worn for years, the defeated, overwhelmed little sister. "I haven't been honest with you guys. I didn't want to say anything until it was finalized, but there's a settlement coming in." Courtney sat up straighter. "What kind of settlement?" "A class action suit against my old tech firm. Unpaid overtime and data privacy violations. My cut is supposed to be around $100,000. The air in the room changed instantly. The hostility evaporated, replaced by a thick, heavy greed. Travis pocketed the car keys. Courtney actually put down her phone. $100 grand? She breathed. "When?" "Next week," I lied smoothly. "But there's a problem. A big one. Because of the hard inquiry on my credit report, the one from the baby furniture and the car title transfer, my credit score has been flagged for suspicious activity. The bank won't release the funds to a personal account in my name. They said I'm a liability." I let the silence hang for a second, baiting the hook. "I need a trustee," I said, sounding desperate. "Someone with familial standing to sign as the primary financial guarantor for the household. Basically, if someone else takes legal responsibility for the bills and the lease, the bank sees the household as stable and releases the check to the trustee." Courtney was out of her seat before I finished the sentence. "I'll do it." "Are you sure?" I asked, feigning hesitation. "It's a lot of paperwork. You'd have to sign a notarized assumption of liability. It basically says you own the debts so the assets can flow to you." "I'm the older sister," she said, her eyes gleaming with the reflection of money that didn't exist. "It's my responsibility to handle the finances anyway. You're clearly too emotional to manage that kind of money. I'll sign whatever. We can use it for the baby. And a new car for Travis." I looked at her. Really looked at her. For a split second, a ghost of my old self tried to rise up, the part of me that remembered us playing in the sprinkler as kids. The part that wanted to warn her. To scream, "Don't sign it. It's a trap." But then I remembered the laptop. I remembered the email to Seattle. I remembered the car keys spinning on Travis's finger. I realized then that mercy is a currency, and I had spent my last dime of it years ago. Every time I had forgiven her in the past, she hadn't seen it as kindness. She had seen it as weakness. She had seen it as permission to cut deeper the next time. Lying to her wasn't cruelty. It was self-defense. To save myself, I had to let the predator eat the poisoned meat. "Okay," I said softly. "I'll call the mobile notary. We can get it done tonight." The notary, a tired-looking man named Bob, arrived 30 minutes later. He barely glanced at the apartment, likely assuming the tension in the air was just the usual family drama. He spread the documents on the dining table. Courtney practically vibrated with anticipation, her eyes scanning the pages not for legal terms, but for dollar signs. "Sign here," Bob said, pointing to the line on the indemnification agreement. "And here for the limited power of attorney regarding household finances." Courtney signed with a flourish, her signature bold and looping. She didn't read the clauses that explicitly stated she accepted full and sole responsibility for all outstanding and future liabilities related to the lease, utilities, and joint credit accounts effective immediately. She was signing away her financial future for a ghost check. "Done," she announced, capping the pen. "So, when does the money hit? 3 to 5 business days?" I lied, sliding the documents into my bag. "The bank just needs to process the change of liability." Bob packed up his stamp and left. The moment the door clicked shut, the clock started ticking. I stood up and walked to the hallway thermostat. It was set to a brisk 68 degrees. "What are you doing?" Travis asked, cracking open a beer. "Fixing something," I said. I ripped the digital thermostat off the wall. Wires sparked briefly, then dangled uselessly. Courtney gasped. "Are you crazy? It's 115 degrees out there." "I know," I said, opening the utility app on my phone. My finger hovered over disconnect service as I looked at Courtney. "You wanted control. You wanted responsibility. Congratulations." I tapped the screen. The refrigerator died. The air conditioner cut out. Heat flooded the apartment. "What did you do?" she screamed. "I transferred the liability," I replied. "The lease is yours. The debt is yours. And so is the darkness." I grabbed my bag. "I'm leaving." She lunged at me, shouting that I owed her everything. "I lied," I said, sidestepping her. "Like you lied about the car, the laptop, my entire life." I stepped into the hallway as the heat began turning the penthouse into an oven. "I'm calling the cops," she shrieked. "Go ahead," I called back. 12 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. Courtney burst out crying, accusing me of cutting power, stealing money, and endangering her baby. "I'm moving out," I said calmly, handing over the notarized assumption of liability agreement. "She took over the lease and utilities today." The officer scanned it. "You signed this, ma'am?" Courtney faltered. "That includes the power bill," the officer said. "She stole my car," Courtney shouted. "I have her confession," I replied, playing the recording. The officer's expression hardened. "Run the VIN." Courtney went pale. "That sounds like fraud and grand larceny," the officer said, snapping on handcuffs. Courtney screamed for Grandma Sheila, who instantly claimed ignorance and clutched her chest. Courtney froze, realizing even her biggest enabler would abandon her. As they led her away, victory surged through me. I went back for my emergency cash. The safe was empty. No money. No passport. Just a sticky note with a smiley face. The baby monitor was gone. Travis had watched me open the safe while I distracted Courtney and cleaned me out. The fire escape was empty. I sank to the floor. I'd won. But I was broke. Free from debt, yet stranded with nothing. I laughed, sharp and hollow, then walked into the blazing sun, feeling strangely weightless. 6 months later, I lived in a tiny Seattle studio, with thrift store furniture and ramen dinners. But the lease was mine, and the lights stayed on. My new job gave me a second chance after I proved the identity theft. Out of habit, I opened family updates. Courtney had been evicted, and was stuck in a roadside motel. Travis was awaiting trial after getting caught with the marked cash. Grandma Sheila left voicemails on my old number. It had been disconnected the day I left. I closed the folder. They were still trapped. I wasn't. I transferred $500 into savings and labeled it Dylan's Freedom Fund. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Real revenge isn't watching them fall. It's building a life so high they can never reach you again. If you've ever had to burn a bridge to move forward, share this story. Someone out there may need permission to walk away.